Well, let's bring in Republican Congresswoman Beth Van Duyne of Texas. She sits on the Transportation and Infrastructure Committee and is also the former mayor of Irving, Texas. Congresswoman, thanks for joining us on Sunday Morning Futures. I cannot make heads or tails of what this administration's doing. They seem to put migrants ahead of U.S. citizens and make it easier for them and less restrictive for them. But that makes no sense in the face of what we're doing. And for people to go on airplanes, the cleanest supposedly air on the planet, and you still have to wear a mask.
Well, you just said it exactly right. I mean, this makes no sense. And if you're trying to make sense of it, let me know if that works for you. But we're doing the exact opposite of what we should be doing. I mean, this is all about control. This is not about protecting people. This is not about making sure that Americans are safe. This is all about how much you can control law-abiding Americans and yet open our border. You know, and I'm one of those people, I'm very pragmatic. Don't come to me with a problem unless we can sit here and figure out solutions. Well, the solutions are fairly obvious. When this administration came into office, they had the solutions. They had the Remain in Mexico policy, because obviously the first thing that you want to do is make sure that the country that borders on our south, where the majority of people who are coming over illegally, where you're seeing the illegal fentanyl and cocaine, weapons are coming over, is at our southern border. So the first thing you need to do is partner with Mexico. We have the Remain in Mexico policy. It's the reason why Secretary of State Mike Pompeo spent so much time negotiating with Mexico to make sure that not only did we tell them it was necessary, but we really left them very little choice. We saw this administration come in and explode that up in its first few months in office. We see what they've done with Immigrations and Customs Enforcement. Immigrations and Customs Enforcement, up until this administration, were able to actually deport criminal illegal aliens. This administration attacked that. And now we're seeing one of the fewest remnants left over of tools to be able to control the border. They're exploding that as well. They're getting rid of it. And at the same time that they're exploding Title 42, which allows us to be able to control who is coming in at the border, they're controlling more Americans who have had an ability, if they've wanted to be able to get the vaccine. And yet people who are coming over the border who we know haven't had the vaccine, we're letting in and not even checking. And it is hypocrisy at its worst, incompetence at its best.
Well, the numbers of people that are coming across the border are absolutely stunning. I mean, record after record continues to get smashed. You know, one of the things as we look at the economy and inflation, there are literally going to be millions of people that have come into this country illegally. Where are they living? Where, you know, we have a crisis. We have a crisis with our housing. We have inflation in food, but we suddenly have millions of more consuming those types of products as well.
Well, it's a great question. Where are they going to live? I know that as you know, as they're coming in over the border, we've got our own government who's putting them on buses and putting them on planes and sending them to a city near you, wherever you are, USA, which makes every city, every state, a border city. In Texas, we are seeing a huge influx of illegal immigrants, a huge influx of illegal drugs, of illegal weapons. And quite honestly, the citizens in the state of Texas are sick of it, which is why I think you see some of the desperate measures that our governor is taking to put them on buses and send them to Washington, D.C. Since the Biden administration finds themselves too busy to actually be able to come down to the border, well, maybe they need to see what it's like in D.C., what it has been like in areas all around Texas.
Yeah, let's listen to Governor Abbott here as he talks about what he's doing and putting a small number of people on buses and dropping them off in Washington, D.C.
The Biden administration and a lot of leaders in Congress have no idea about the chaos they have caused by their open border policies. And they refuse to come down and see firsthand and talk to the people who are really most adversely affected. And if they're not going to come to the border, I'm going to take the border to them in Washington, D.C.
These are all migrants who have been processed by CBP and are free to travel. So it's nice the state of Texas is helping them get to their final destination as they await in their outcome of their immigration proceedings. And they're all in immigration proceedings.
That is just absolutely amazing. They are just free to roam the country wherever they want to go. That's the White House position on this.
But it'll be interesting to see what they do as a response to this in the Capitol, because it seems like a lot of folks on the other side of the aisle like to take their little homes and their offices in Capitol Hill where they're protected. I guarantee you, if we see a mass immigration of illegal aliens, you're going to see those walls go back up around our Capitol to be able to protect the politicians. But while we're leaving a wall down on our southern border and ignoring the effects that it's having on the rest of our country, it is criminal. It needs to stop. We know the tools that were in place before this administration came in that were working. It's time far too late to be able to put those back into place. But we need to do that as soon as possible. You mentioned how many people are coming over the border illegally. We could have populated at least 3 of our states with a number of people who have come over in the last year in 3 months. Think about how many people that is that are here illegally that we have no way of being able to monitor, and we don't know who they are. Almost 900 people from questionable countries that want to do us harm, places like Yemen and Syria, we already believe have come over this year alone. Think about that.
Yeah, it is stunning. It is scary. And look, these are human beings. We need to treat them with compassion. Yeah. But let's also understand this is human trafficking. This is drug trafficking. This is gun running. And these are just the encounters, those numbers that we looked at. These are just the people that we actually caught up with. There are how many others that just flowed through those open borders unimpeded. And you have Border Patrol that wants to do something about it, but it has handcuffs on themselves. They're unable to do it. But talk about the human toll that this is taking.
Well, there's a human toll on the people who are coming over, where you have over a third of the women and children who are coming over who have been raped, who have been sexually assaulted, who are facing having to work in this country to be able to pay off the debt of the folks who have brought them here illegally. You think of how many thousands of people who have died just on the path here through the country of Mexico. And once they get here, life is not easy. I've been down at the border. I've seen what the conditions are that they're in right now because of this huge influx. You're absolutely right. I mean, Customs and Border Protection don't have the resources that they need. And you've got, again, members on the Democrat side who are making them out as demons and making them out as a bad guy, and continue to cut the legs and to cut the tools out from under them to be able to do their jobs effectively. It's negatively affecting the country. It is empowering and enriching drug smugglers, human traffickers, sex traffickers, and all. This was planned. They knew that this was going to happen. They were warned that this was going to happen, and they did it anyway.
The number of children that are coming across that we do not track, that are not matched up and verified with somebody, I think is going to be one of the great long-term horror stories that come across. And a lot of the people, the majority of the people that are coming across are not families. They're single young males. And where this country thinks they're going to be housed and fed and given jobs and everything else, I mean, they can't even handle it with Customs and Border Control. What do you think is going to happen within our communities? Where do these people go, live, and work?
You're going to see the homeless population increase. You're going to see more people that are having to take government entitlement programs. And then you're going to have states like New Mexico that are taking programs like our COVID relief, our CARES Act dollars, and putting them into free programs for illegal aliens while ignoring folks like veterans who have really worked for it. The country cannot afford it. What we have seen in the last 15 months under this administration is outrageous spending, and really no clue how we're going to be able to pay back those dollars. But it's enriching drug smugglers, it's enriching cartels, it's enriching gang members, and it's at the expense of the working American people.
Yeah, I think you make a very, very good point that we're treating people who come here illegally better than people that are trying to come here legally and lawfully, and probably more importantly, better than we do our veterans who are homeless. They're dying on our streets. They have serious drug problems, and we don't give them the care and attention that we give somebody who comes here illegally. And that is absolutely unacceptable. And I think we'll have severe repercussions come November in the election. Congresswoman Beth Van Duyne of Texas, one of the rising stars in the Republican Party, thank you so much for joining us on Sunday Morning Futures.
Happy Easter, Jason. Thanks for having me.